Hello, pal, malt mates, whiskey fans. Yeah, I'm getting there, slowly but surely. Anyway, I'm Ralphie, just in case you've just suddenly arrived at this channel and you're wondering what on earth's going on, and who the daft old bunnety man is sitting at this fine Oscar sherry cask, little sherry cask, beautifully made. Absolutely. See, when you run your hands around the side of the cask, all the wood joins are completely smooth, and that tells you something very important about a cask. It tells you that it hasn't been just cobbled together and reassembled from bits to remain basically watertight and to hold content. So a very nicely coopered and beautifully weathered barrel, this, with a sufficiently flat top, you see, because the wood's thick enough that it's not buckling. You see, there you go. And I've just reviewed this Edradour 10-year-old and given it 84 out of 100 in review 1013. So here we are in review number 1013, 1113 extras, in which I'm going to talk about the challenging our palate. And it's something that we all do to a certain degree. However, it varies between the individual. Some folk are very keen to have wilder and wilder experiences in order to just experience it and talk about it. And other folk are far more conservative and just say, do you know, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to stick to Laphroaig. Right. Now, you might be wondering, hey, Ralphie, what's so safe about Laphroaig? And the fact is, Laphroaig is a given experience. In all its permutations, Laphroaig is Laphroaig. It is highly distinctive and it is reliable and consistent, no matter whether the quality is inferior or superior. The bottling will always give you that Laphroaig moment. And this means that you know what you're going to get. And when you get what you know you're going to get, you know you're going to be happy about it. And do you know, if that's you, absolutely fine. The important things, malt mates, is that whiskey, like art, like music, it's about controlling the personal experiences without too much challenge, disruption, and distress being caused when other people start to dictate what pace we'll enjoy our whiskey at, what whiskey we'll want to have, and what our made-up tasting notes will be about it. And I'm saying made-up tasting because I've noticed over the years, as have you, that people who don't know much about whiskey tend to go online, find the brief, basic tasting notes. In other words, the 3 words point of reference. You've probably heard of it. You know, which 3 words? It's a site, you find it online, and it lets you pinpoint to 3 square meters anywhere in the world using only 3 basic words. And they'll find out, for example, Macallan, which they tend to get drawn to. And they'll say, oh, right, it's malty, it's sherried, it's complex. And they won't elaborate in complex. And they'll never mention the fact that it's horrendously chill filtered. And in fact, they're increasingly now, the actual quality of the malt is not very good. Despite the fact that, in my opinion, they're still using decent ingredients, that there's something just out of key, out of alignment. There's just something off key completely. But that's a story for another day. We do inevitably. We have to. We can go down 2 roads here. Either we let others dictate our experience, and then we learn how to talk the talk and walk the walk in whiskey company, and then, you know, we know all the cues, and we're in basically an enhanced social club. But the other road we go down is a more solitary and singular road, and we can do it in good company, but I assure you the company needs to be good. And you will find these people are going now to whisky festivals, which is a phenomenal place and opportunity to experience a wide variety of flavours, styles and deliveries. And we're talking about the holistic chemo delivery of flavour influenced ethanol that you get from whisky. And you're getting it in an articulate, I wouldn't say worshipful, but I would say reverential environment of the whisky festival, which is why it's better that there's not musicians playing and distractions of crazy golf lessons to promote some blend brand and all that fluff and distraction, which is wrong because it means the musicians who are playing their instruments and singing and who deserve to get applause, they're not getting the acknowledgement they deserve because people are there to enjoy the whisky, to focus on the whisky, and to get the premium experience in which they've invested. This is something I noticed from comparing Irish whisky festivals to Scotch whisky festivals. And that is that Irish whisky festivals will much more bring in the culture. You know, the dancers, the musicians, the ukulele and pipe players will all be there and much more embraced than, say, if a bagpipe player or a guitar player or a banjo player would turn up at a Scotch whisky festival. It's just the way the landscape is. But this is all what we experience when we're basically developing our palate. We're engaging with an environment which stimulates us, but we need to maintain control of it so we're not overwhelmed by it. And we're not trying to absorb and take on too much, too soon, too fast, in order to be able to be seen by others, to be walking the walk and talking the talk. When we cultivate our own palate, the clue is our own. We take responsibility for our own palate and we stick by it. Excuse me. Time for a drop of cough mixture whiskey. The slower we go, the longer the journey. I've witnessed people deep dive into whisky and then become disillusioned and then disengaged. And a classic example is one chap I knew came along to Glasgow's Whisky Club many, many years ago. And he had a mission that he didn't want to disclose. And his mission was to sit there quietly, drinking too much too fast, and to listen closely into the conversation about what were the most collectible whiskies and valuable whiskies and important whiskies. And he went out and he collected like mad. He wasn't developing his palate, he was developing his ego. And initially he did fine because the early days were the most exciting days where none of us knew where the wind was going to blow the whisky world after 2015 and my goodness from 2020 to 2024. It was a bonanza. It was a hangover from which the industry is now still preparing itself to recover from. Anyway, this chap, he spent a bit of time learning to talk the talk and walk the walk, and of course he went to whisky festivals, and he quickly got sussed out because he couldn't quite hold his drink. It was noticeable that his wife's sister would appear under instructions about halfway through the whisky festival just to escort him out in case he made a fool of himself. And it's interesting to note that the more he stacked up the whiskey, the more smug he became in his own knowledge. He, of course, as you can imagine, he was all in on Ardbeg, Highland Park and Macallan. He couldn't see beyond them. They were the be-all and end-all. He set up he had a personal program spreadsheet so as he could monitor the increasing value of his bottlings that he'd bought. Not initial prices, I have to add. Many he bought at secondary prices, but as far as he was concerned, liquid gold is liquid gold. And I suppose there's a parallel here that we should all be aware of, is that every commodity has a real value and a perceived value. And usually the perceived value is not the reality. And the real value is usually just perceived. And this was the case for him when he eventually had his divorce. And unbeknownst to him, his wife had photocopied his print-offs of the value of his collection. And her timing was pitch perfect, because she got the divorce settlement at the height, the very apex of the value of his collection, the perceived value, which he agreed to because he had no choice. He's kind of disappeared from the scene now, and I hope he's well. I wish him well. I would get pestered in the early days. Oh, Ralphie, what's next? What's next? What's next? When's your next bottling? You know, how many bottles? What time of day does it come out? You know, are the bottles numbered? You know, is number one available? Could you put it aside for me? Nod, nod, wink, wink. Nod. And this is just hugely alienating to me. It's one reason why I stopped very early on numbering my bottles from own bottlings. But there's other people, and a number of other people in the whisky club over the years, who their investment has been very, very rich rewards for them, because they've invested in the quality of the company, the quality of their malt moments, the quality of the fun that they've had, meeting new people, getting to know distilleries, getting to know the brand ambassadors who are always grateful for an appreciative of audience, who they can talk to, knowing that the audience actually knows how the stuff's made and what a quality cask costs and how much difference there is between a quality cask and an inferior cask. And it's huge. The most precious investment that we make is of ourselves and the time we have. In our lives, we are spoiled for choice as to what we can engage and connect with. And as we get older, for sure, the value of time is a constantly growing asset. The valuation never falls. Time. To have enough is to have a lot. And someone that has maybe 100 bottles, and that's all collected over their lifetime, many of them opened, all of them enjoyed, has enjoyed a far, far greater yield than the hoarder who is constantly on the fever chase and neglects to allow their own palate to actually enjoy the calibre of the experience. Cheers, malt mates.